من هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الملك القدوس السلام.
So the new surah is not really far from what we are really discussing or what we have been discussing. It's called Surah Al-Qiyamah, resurrection, the day of judgment, the next life, okay? And you all know that Quran refers to that day by different names. This is one of them, okay? And the name usually has to do with something definitely related. So if you connect these different names, okay, you have a clear idea, okay, about that new life. If you remember the last surah we discussed, Surah Al-Mursalat, the day of judgment was referred to as the day of distinction, Yawm al-Fasl. Is that right? Yawm al-Fasl is about the day of judgment, okay? Or the beginning of because really things become very distinct, okay? If we have any dispute about anything, it will be clarified on that day. What is right, what is wrong? Al-Haqq. Later we will see Surah Al-Haqq, another name for that day. Because on that day, the truth will be realized. It is the day of absolute reality, absolute truth. Here we are getting closer as much as we can towards the truth, but you will not get it, all of it, or you cannot own it, or appropriate it, but you struggle in an ongoing basis, like to get closer and closer to the truth. So this surah is not difficult from its title, to know what is it really rotating around, what is the axis of the surah around which its components, its building blocks rotating around. No question, it is around the day of judgment. Okay, now, how it starts? How does it start? لا أقسم بيوم القيامة. So there is an oath. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling upon the day of judgment to be a witness. This is what the oath means. Is that right? When we say, okay, wallahi, I did this. I swear by God that I did this thing. What am I doing here? I am asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to become my witness that I did that. Which means what? At the end, that I am saying the truth. Is that right? And you know it. You are under oath. The judge always remind the witnesses, okay, you are under oath, okay, which means say the truth, okay. Now, لا أقسم بيوم القيامة. It starts with لا. لا, we know that it is for negation in the Arabic language. لا أقسم. If I take it literally, as if I say لا أقسم, it means I don't want to swear. No, it's very interesting, this way of presenting the oath with this negation at the beginning. It has, two interesting meanings. When you are still swearing. When you are saying it, you are still swearing. You are giving an oath, but as if you are saying, okay, I don't even need that oath in order to emphasize a certain concept.
Almost the strength of your conviction.
Yes, to the point that I don't even need it. But I go ahead,
No,
yes.
so like that.
Yes, لا أقسم. I don't even need that oath because I am very convinced about it. Okay? Or I have there is nothing more valuable than this to swear by it. You see, I mean, it's still an oath, but you are giving the reader or the listener the idea that this is, I am swearing by the most important thing to me, the dearest thing to me. You see, when you say, I swear by Allah, it means that there is nothing beyond. I mean, Allah, you can say by my father, by my mother, by my own life, because it's dear to you. But the highest, when you say Wallahi, you are saying, so this la is negating, okay, anything else less. No, I am. So what does it really mean? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is really bringing a very important thing to our attention, which is really the day of judgment. But let us really consider that again above the simplistic, okay? And trying to understand this concept in a little bit different way. And really Quran helped us a lot in that. You remember Surah Al-Mursalat? Quran, it is also about the day of judgment. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swore by so many things to tell us that the day of judgment is coming. What I have promised you is coming. إِنَّمَا تُوعَدُونَ لَوَاقِعٌ. You see? So, and this is Al-Mursalat. Before that surah was revealed, there was another surah that also talks about the day of judgment. But it was presented in a completely different way. It started by a question, or on what the people are asking each other. You are familiar with Surah An-Naba. عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَأِ الْعَظِيمِ الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ مُخْتَلِفُونَ. So, the Quran is presenting to us, it's really a question that is legitimate to start with. And people have been asking each other about it. And we know how Quran really start also asking us questions. Something that we are familiar with. And these questions can be still asked here. But then the surah changed course and started talking about that day directly, but in the affirmative. No more questions. The style changed. Because when you are asking in this, you mean that you are still here, you can fetch for answers. But in that day, no more place for questions. It is there. You don't have to. So in other words, Quran brings the day of judgment in a way as if it is present. And if you go through that evolution in the history of Quran, Surah An-Naba is presenting the case, how people reacting to it. And the next stage, Quran is saying, I swear by all these things that what I have promised you is going to happen. Now, Quran is using the day of judgment to swear by it. You see that? We were asking, okay, what is this day? Is it coming? When it is coming? People are asking all these questions. And then Quran say, oh, it is coming. Doesn't need argument. It is going to happen. And I swear by the same way you see these things happening around you, the day of judgment is coming. Here, it is, I swear by it. Yes, we have not seen it, but Quran is presenting it as if it is in front of you. Now, you remember what we used to say, or we have said over and over, that how the way Quran present, okay, this life and the next life, that they are really connected, no separation. The day of judgment or the next life is present here the same way this life will be present over there. You see that? You imagine now this life without day of judgment. I mean, at the intellectual level, we can do that. We can start from a postulate and say, okay, let us start from two postulates. One, it says, let us say the postulate, the day of judgment is coming next to this life. And the other postulate is saying, there is no life after this life. Okay, these are legitimate. I mean, you can start with any postulate. But the question is, what comes after either will support the postulate or it does not. The same way you can apply it, okay, and this is a different way of presenting things. Okay, the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Am I going to do an experiment like to show that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I mean, there is no way. I mean, like but we can say, let us start from this postulate. There is God. And let us say there is no God. Another postulate. See what will happen for yourself. Just mentally. You see
I don't want to be scary.
But I mean, this is how we need to start talking to people. Okay, I am not against you. You have all the right to ask whatever you want. But let us say, okay, if you start from this postulate, are you capable of supporting it? And when I say there is, you see what I mean? Okay, let us now apply it because of our discussion here about the day of judgment. Okay? Let us take it at a... Yes, please. Yeah.
This thing bothers me quite a bit, this custom. So culturally, the Arabs, for every little thing, wallahi. As if you don't say that, you're not believable. Okay? So swearing is, you swear to your peers or to a higher authority. Like when you go to court, you raise your hand, I swear, or take oath, whatever. And mankind is neither to Allah. We are neither His peer, nor we are a higher authority. So there's no need for custom. So Allah is saying that, hey, I don't swear, okay? Because you are neither my peers, nor my authority, okay? So just get over it. Whether you believe it or not, this is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's my...
Yeah. Let me tell you something. I mean, you are totally right that unfortunately some things really takes a different course over time. Okay? If you basically again go back to the reference, and there are verses about really like swearing and taking an oath, and to the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said you don't have to do that. وَاحْفَظُوا أَيْمَانَكُمْ. You see, ayman is really swearing. Okay, yeah. So not iman, ayman. Okay, yameen, when you are because you raise your right hand and you say, so this is how its origin. Okay, but the idea again is don't abuse that. Quran is saying, I mean, not everything say To the point that لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم. Please, I mean, you say, by God, eat this. Wallahi, to eat this. By the Prophet, eat that. You see what I mean? This is, I mean, we know it. I mean, in our culture has become part of the culture. Quran says, don't care about it. Okay, this is really part of the talking. Okay, natural. But is it really the acceptable level? No. Quran says, وَاحْفَظُوا أَيْمَانَكُمْ. To the point that there is always a chance that you go against. You cannot keep your oath. Then you have to do something like like in retribution, if you like. You have to feed 10 people. You have to buy for them clothes. You have to release a slave. I mean, there are things to do, which means, okay, take it seriously. So your point is very well taken. But again, it is very difficult, like, to unlearn a habit. Okay, the way to create new habits. Okay, that you don't really need, because really it has to do with the level of trust. When the level of trust becomes high, you don't need it. And you can see it in this country. But you can see at the same time, the level of trust has not remained the same. I mean, you ask people who came to this country 30 or 40 years ago, there was no picture on your driver's license. What does that really tell you? Do you see what I mean? There was no picture on the driver's license. How many times many of you here, you lived here for longer than others, is that right? It was easy, like, to pay by a check, is that right? Now today they don't accept it. I mean, but with difficulty they have to take the number of your driver's license and they need to see. But before that, nobody will ask you. Again, I'm just giving you examples that one. Yeah, so exactly. So now you can see that over time, and this is very unfortunate. We don't like it. We'd like to live in a place that people. One of the attractive things were really that you are really trusted, but you have to act and responsibly to that. But as really things really start deteriorating, the trust start really going down, and you need all the. And probably you start need. I swear to God, I have money in my bank account or something like that, and people will not take it. You see what? So no question, it has to do with the level of trust. Okay. So I'm trying really like to. Take that as a postulate, okay? And let us take it at our level as a human beings, okay? What happens when a group of people come together to live a common social life? What we call a human association, okay? It could be a small group, a large group, but no matter how small or big, okay? You are talking about a tribe or you're talking about a nation. Can they live, okay, without any type of retribution or rules? I mean, imagine a group living together without rules. What will happen? It will be very chaotic. Chaos. Is that right? But immediately people start, and in order to prevent this and continue living together, what they start doing? Putting some rules. They have to agree on certain rules and regulations so that they can continue to live together. Otherwise, the life cannot be sustained in this situation. Okay, if you put all these rules and regulations, then you say, okay, we need like a type of power, a form of power to enforce these laws. Is that right? So they may say, okay, let us have the head of that tribe or that group who will decide on things, or as things develop, they will have a smaller group like to be like a police or something. I mean, the humanity went through these things, but that's, if we, again, you can say, all right, let us put a postulate and say, let us have a group without rules and regulations and see what will happen. And another group, see what will happen. It's become very clear that people know they need. In other words, you want to make people aware of the consequences of their actions. Today, if you are driving if you are driving on a road where there is construction, what do you see on your right side? Written on a plaque. Speed limit.
Fine.
Okay, and the fines are higher. Is that right? It starts from 375. Why? Because it's telling the drivers, wake up, and really the consequences are really serious. Because you may endanger the life of the people working on this, and I'm sure that they came to this because they have seen what will happen when people don't heed, these instructions. Is that right? So what will happen? Most of the people will abide by this, and then always there will be few who may, for one reason or other, but people become aware of that. Now, you can go even higher than that. And if you really raise the people or educate your people to the point that they can, they may not need the rule from outside, but something from inside they will tell them, don't do it. What do we call this? Conscience, is that right? Why people don't kill? Because there is a rule that says don't kill? In the first place, your conscience will not allow you to do that. Is that right? And generally speaking, so the conscience, this part of us, of ourself, that always accuses us and blame us for something wrong that we have done. Read with me the next. Read. So the first ayah, لا أقسم بيوم القيامة, and ولا أقسم لوامة. Read the translation, Shakir.
May I call to witness the person who shows remorse after wrongdoing.
So, you see, without conscience, you cannot do that. But you see, the day of judgment is put at the same footing of the conscience, your conscience. It's amazing. In other words, there is no conscience without day of judgment. And there is no day of judgment without conscience. You are familiar with Mark Twain. Mark Twain is very known for his, what they call paradoxical aphorisms. He said, this person, I have to wait for Arshia, she likes that.
By the way, he died pretty broke.
But he was really very, very smart. I mean, it's amazing. Yes, please.
This is a sideline. Conscious, you're talking about conscience. Repercussions. What happens?
Yes.
Usually, isn't it synonymous that an educated man, and it's not quite right, he thinks about repercussions before acting on certain things. Whereas, and I'm going to take a page from I'm from Pakistan.
Yes.
A lot of these tribal areas, people who aren't that educated, or they have other things, there's a fight. And it's instinctive, they're going to punch you. Whereas a lot of times when you've been in this, a person who is he's going to think twice. So, do you think is there a link to that as well?
Yes. No question about it that, thank you very much. The role of education is really like to develop that conscience. You see, particularly if that education is given that direction. Because even education may not prevent you. So it has to do with the direction that is given to that education. You see, I mean, the reason people are acting this way, as you are saying, they don't think about really the consequences, how it's really. But with time, sometimes they start to learn. When they see the consequences, they say, okay, I mean, if we continue to do that, then we cannot live this life. And people around us, okay, it's the same way it is affecting that person, it also will affect somebody one day who will come and punch me. So how we can really diffuse that? They come to put these rules, regulations, whatever, I mean, a reference that will help them, okay, modulate their behavior in order for life really to continue. Otherwise, it's becoming unbearable, okay, to live in that situation. So, consequences, and this is really the crust of this. When Quran uses the word al-akhirah, we immediately think about the day of judgment. But Quran is also talking about not the long-term consequences, but also the short-term. What is going to happen next? Al-akhirah is the next. What is going to happen if you do this? Immediately, short-term, and long-term, even after you leave this life. You see yes.
It's just like we are saying, at the end it's going to happen. You know, in worldly affairs we say, at the end this is going to happen. So it will be short or...
And this is Quran calls tadabbur. It's very interesting term. Tadabbur, it comes from dubur, the back of things. For example, we say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar each 33 times. Dubura kulli salah, after each prayer. Tadabbur is to think what will happen after you do an action of certain sort. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Not about the past, but how Quran will help you to foresee the future. Many years ago, I read an article in the Times magazine written by Sir Williams. I mean the son of the Queen of England. Charles. Sorry. Charles wrote a very beautiful article in the New York Times about and the Times magazine, and it was really about Quran and Islam. And he mentioned it, tadabbur, transliterated. He said this is a huge concept because it's about the future more than dealing with what is in the present, but how the present and the past will help you to. So, and he basically talked about that this is a Quranic term. It is unfortunate that we don't pay attention to what we have. So true. I mean, it's amazing. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. أدبار السجود. After. What comes after? This is what we need to think about. So there's now a science called eschatology. It is the science of consequences. The next life is part of that. Oh, it's amazing. It needs to be a science. Because what is a science? When you have the ability of information brought together to answer related questions. How sociology became or anthropology became a science, because they were able to find patterns, but at the same time capable of answering questions related to that discipline. It's not a compendium of information brought together and then say, this is nonsense. This is not science in the actual meaning of the word. Okay? So we need also to come up. I mean, this is very interesting science, because and see how Quran is connecting the day of judgment, swearing by the day of judgment, and swearing by our own selves, our conscience. This ability to feel the remorse if you do something wrong before any law comes into effect. Now, Sister Arshia, before that, we were waiting for you because I was saying that Mark Twain, he was known about his paradoxical aphorisms. So one of his aphorisms, he used to say, this man has a clean conscience. And then the next phrase, because he did not use it. Or he does not use it. So it remained clean because it was not, our conscience should not be stay there without being used. Okay? So the idea of conscience and this ability to have this insight, this is the part, okay, that you know about it. This is the part of yourself that you know about it, and probably others don't know. Because there is a part of yourself that you have talked about it, it became a public part of yourself. And there is a part also that you don't know, but somebody else knows about it. It's like the blind spot. Is that right? The blind spot, what does it mean, the blind spot? You don't see it, but I can see it, and I tell you, be aware. This is in your blind spot. Now you became aware of it. So at one point, you did not know about it. I know about it. And many times you see it on your kids. You see it on your students. They behave in a way that will tell you, oh, there is something I have to make that child aware of it. You can see it as a parent, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a coach. You can see it, but they cannot see it. This is where the advice becomes very important. The counseling becomes very important. Okay? And there is also a part that you don't know it, and nobody else knows about it. Okay? And this is the area, the hidden area that needs to be explored. You have to see the kids when I put that diagram of Johari before them. And they I swear to God, they put the names in these 4 quadrants. Do not underestimate our kids. They know more than what you think. And they can understand more than what you think. Don't treat them as if they are still in kindergarten. If you facilitate for them, if you simplify, not simplistic, you simplify concepts for them, they will start give you even deep examples about what you are talking about. So this part of ourselves, we know about it, but there is a high chance that you will not allow anybody to know about it. This is the strength of the subjectivity in us. No one can know about it unless you reveal it, unless you uncover it. And this is the beauty, honestly, when you read a clean, beautiful novel, a story, short, long, whatever, but I mean, unless that person shares with us, nobody would know about it. Give you an example from Quran. There was a time when the Prophet, peace be upon him, I mean, his home was really like he was following the policy that we say to the open door policy. Everybody can come in. But unfortunately, people sometimes go beyond their limits and they don't pay attention to the privacy of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And the Prophet will not say anything to them. They start coming and sitting, eating, and resting, and everything. It is open. You see how sometimes we abuse and overuse things, and it will give the opposite results. We don't think about the consequences. Nobody think that the Prophet really needs to be with his wife, for example. And in fact, the word hijab has nothing to do with the scarf. The word hijab in Quran has nothing to do with the head scarf. The hijab is really like a curtain that every one of us needs it to protect his or her privacy. And we talked about it. We discussed a whole surah last year, and we saw how that was part of the process to protect the society. The first person, to my knowledge, who came up with this distinction, and we did not pay attention to it, is Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun talked about the habits of the makers and the habits of the doers. Makers, what you produce. You are a good carpenter, you are a good, businessman, you are, okay? That's fine. This tells me what you can make. But as a doer, tells me about your attributes. Are you compassionate? Are you merciful? You see what I mean? So and I'm not, this example that I gave you earlier is a true example. I know the person, and he stood against his own family, because the whole family worked in that industry, in that company. And he said, no, I will not put it at $18. I want to sell it at $10 because the poor cannot afford it. Now, what does that tell me about the product? About the person. So this is what we need really to start thinking about, my dear brothers and sisters. Here comes the values that emanate from the beautiful names of Allah. If it were not for the mercy in the heart of that person, he would not have done it this way. Yeah, you see what I mean? So, if you see something like that, tell that person you are closer to Allah, the most merciful, in this action.
So there are primary things, compassion, virtues, mercy, values. There are religion things. And there are secondary
No, they are not religion. They are common. However, you are following a certain, because Quran call it ma'roof, which it means evidently known, universally known. You don't have to be follower of a certain to be honest. Yeah. You see what I mean? But religion enforces these values and give them a reference. When I am acting honestly, I am not doing it. No, there is someone who is the most honest. The pure, that this attribute emanates from his absolute attribute in that regard. You see what I mean? That becomes highly connected. The more you realize, the closer you are. So you are elevated, not made weak and powerless or da'if. No, you are given the power to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what it means to be closer to Allah. The more you realize these high values, beautiful values in our own life. So the idea of the day of judgment is not disconnected from this conscience that nobody knows about. I was telling you the story of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that how his companions abused, his hospitality. And who uncovered that for us? The Prophet did not say anything. Quran came down and said, well, فَيَسْتَحْيِي مِنْكُمْ وَاللَّهُ لَا يَسْتَحْيِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Out of haya. And I really don't know what is the best word to translate haya. Because it is not to be bashful, or it's deeper than that. Haya, when you feel that you cannot do anything. For example, the Prophet, he's practicing haya. Out of his haya, he cannot say to his people, you have to leave now. More than, goodness is a more general word.
It's so deep.
So deep, it's very difficult to find really a good translation to it. But really, it's this deep feeling that he doesn't want to affect the feeling of somebody else. Imagine you are telling somebody who is at home, sorry, it is too late, please can you leave? Can you say that? You can do it in an indirect way, or I am too tired or something like that, so that they can. The idea is not to affect the feelings of the others. But who unrevealed it to us? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. So this thing, either you reveal it, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will know about it. You see, this is a nafsul lawwama. And if it is not there, you cannot live. a peaceful life. Imagine you are living in a setting where there is no conscience. It's very difficult. So in other words, this person who is using his conscience is really thinking about the consequences. And the largest consequence is really going to happen in the next life. Because in this life, you still have the chance to exercise nafsul lawwama. You see, this life, it is still a chance to adjust, to amend, to change course. But in the day of judgment, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَلَّن نَجْمَعَ عِظَامَهُ? Why people are really belying the day of judgment? Because they cannot really imagine that after these bones are decomposed, are they going to come back again? أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَلَّن نَجْمَعَ عِظَامَهُ. And نحسب, and there is another way to read it, نحسب. نحسب, think. نحسب, calculate. In either way, you are miscalculating. As if Quran says, you are miscalculating. If you are really fixating on this idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you are not going to gather back your own bones after they decompose in the grave, you are mistaken. You are mistaken and you are miscalculating on both sides. You see? أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَلَّن نَجْمَعَ عِظَامَهُ. Now, when you ask a question in the negative, like this one, alam, don't you, not do you, don't you? Okay? Now, the answer, if I say na'am in Arabic, as if I am really confirming the negation. But when you say bala, the word bala, okay, it is reversing the negation. Negating the negation. Bala, it means that no, we are capable. Bala qadirina ala an nusawwiya banana. Not only we are capable of bringing the bones together, but even the tips of your toes and fingers, we are going to bring them back because they are very delicate. You know, the nerves are concentrated in the tips of our fingers especially, and the representation in the brain is the largest. These are small, but in terms of function, very high, and the order coming from the brain requires larger representation spatially in the brain. So Quran is going beyond the answer to tell, no, it's not only bringing you back, even to the minute fingerprints. This is why we came up with the idea of fingerprints, because the uniqueness, because of the details, that becomes really a method to distinguish. So Quran is saying to that, uniqueness will bring you back. It's amazing. The language, my dear brothers and sisters, we need it. We need that level of language to help us to think, not to entertain us. Oh, it is very beautiful. You see? But it, in fact, to help us to think and not to miscalculate in our thinking. Think right. بل يريد الإنسان ليفجر أمامه يسأل أيان يوم القيامة. Bal, when you see this term this article, bal, it means it is opposite to the previous argument. Bringing a new argument. Okay? Now, Quran and this argument talking about that I was swearing by other things that are familiar to you to prove to you that the day of judgment is coming. Now you see it in front of you as if it is a fact. As if you are seeing it in front of your eyes. I can swear by it that the events that you will see are really true. Yet, this is the argument. What is the opposite argument that Quran now is talking about? How the human being is behaving. In regard to that argument, he is going always against it. Yafjura is like when things go out of control. Now, gas comes to our houses, is that right? Through ducts. God forbid, imagine that there is a leak somewhere. Things go out of control. Is that right? To the point that explosion can happen. Wasim, you remember when you were
Yes.
you were there also. We were sitting, having dinner, a good time and everything, and suddenly we heard a big explosion, like a bomb, and we thought that something happened and upstairs in our house. Alhamdulillah, there was nothing. But later we heard it's an amazing story. And down Long Grove, which is next to a lady in her night robe called the police from her house saying, I smell gas. The police told her, now, get out right now. Don't talk. Don't change anything right now. Wallahi, she walked few meters away from her house and it exploded. Think of this out of what do you call this? When there is an explosion. Things went out of control. The house was under control. Everything is coming neatly, nicely. Nothing is happening. Boom. This is the word yafjur. When the human being goes out of control and go forward in his life, amamahu, continue to dispute that fact. Yas'alu ayyana yawmul qiyamah. Despite all these arguments and everything that we have, he doesn't know about himself. He doesn't have a conscience to tell him that this idea of consequence is there. Can you imagine life without consequences? This is the argument of Quran. Can you imagine this life to go like this without consequences? Without retribution? Without solving the disputes? You see, it's beautiful. بل يريد الإنسان ليفجر أمامه يسأل أيان يوم القيامة. Despite everything, he shun away that argument and goes out of control, fixating to that question, still disputing, out of control, asking the same question, يَسْأَلُ أَيَّانَ يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ. When? As if, prove to me. Let it happen now so that I can believe it. And if it doesn't happen now, it is not there.
So this was elsewhere. the Quraysh used to taunt our prophet like Mata Hazal Wada in Kuntum Sadiqeen, right?
Yeah.
This is the opening line, the qasam.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a direct response
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah. The same way, عَمَّا يَتَسَاءَلُونَ.
Yes.
But we saw the evolution, okay? Like how Quran prepared, and now really you can see it. How the first generation receiving Quran were prepared, like as if now they see it in front of them. There is no more dispute. You see, there is no place for argument. Now focus on how you prepare for that day. On Friday we mentioned like about the Prophet used to be, you asked, but immediately he will change. Or by asking the asker, the person who is asking the question, another question to change his mentality. ماذا أعددت لها? What have you prepared for it? متى القيامة؟ متى الساعة؟ ماذا أعددت لها? Waiting, my dear brothers and sisters, is a philosophy by itself. Okay? From waiting for Godot to waiting for the Messiah, I mean, it's a whole, you can look at it from a human experience. But then you can challenge and say, who is waiting for who? You see what I mean? What have you done? I am not going to argue with you about whether there is a Messiah or not. For the sake of discussion, if that Messiah is true, what are you ready to be? That Messiah will be struggling for justice. Are you ready to align with him or her? You see what I mean? Who is waiting? He is waiting for you. And you are fixating on the idea, I am waiting for him or her. Now you change the whole outlook. Who is waiting for who? At the sociological level. You see what I mean? Sometimes you need to take that approach. It's not going to work to say this happens and does not happen. I believe in this. If I tell people I don't believe in the whole concept, it's not going to, as if I'm forcing something on them. But if I change the question, then their life becomes meaningful. But to say, I am waiting and sit idle for someone to come and solve your problem is not going to happen. I can assure you that. إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. It's Allah, not the Messiah. If Allah is talking about himself, that I am not going to change the situation of a group of people until they change their situation. Do you have to argue about a Messiah? You see what I mean? Again, I am not here like to go into arguments that will stay, it will need the day of a judgment to resolve it. But now, what can you change? You change yourself. If you want to see a change in your whole situation.
Could there be the eternal hell unless you don't change your anger, your frustration? You're going to be in this eternal hell.
Yeah.
Because this could be the eternal hell.
Exactly, which is the suffering, because you see it right away. Okay, this is why Quran, Al-Akhirah doesn't mean the long term only, but also the the immediate and the short term. You see for yourself the suffering. Don't think about it at the personal level, at the social level. If you start doing this, and the other, God forbid, if somebody start, a pathway towards corruption, and what is this life? You see it today. You go to countries, even your own, where you have been born and raised, and you say, I cannot live anymore. There. Can you imagine this feeling? The country that you love, because you were born and raised and you know the people and everything, to come to that conclusion, it's very hard, it's horrible feeling. Why? Because what is happening? When things are out of control.
I think it happens pretty good. I had a millionaire friend who told me he had 2 happy days in his life. He was 80 years old, and he says, "What was that, Howard?" He says, "The day I got married and the day I got divorced. These are the 2 happy days he had." So this speaks for the whole, they have money, they have...
Has nothing to do,
It doesn't bring happiness. You're running away from yourself.
Yeah.
And so...
Going back to the word tadabbur, there is another ayah, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ.
Yeah, this is the one that I was referring
that's what
to.
you...
Yeah.
So they, فَأَقْفَالُهَا, meaning people who don't...
Yeah, you are right. There are 2 places. Yeah. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Yeah. And this is in Surah Muhammad. أَقْفَالُهَا means lock. Are they putting locks on their hearts? Which means what? Because heart in Quran is really your inside. All your faculties. From thinking, feeling, your emotions, all right, your reasoning. This is the heart, like the qalb, which means the inside of you, not just only the physical heart, but really your inside. Okay? So the Quran is saying, when you block, and this is very interesting. I have to show you this short video about, it's called Video of Paradigm.
You don't enjoy our works?
No, because I want to show you, honestly, that unless you change the way you see things, you cannot change your actions. Can you? Look it up, and we can show it right now.
As you can see, our team's doing fantastic. We should have that all wrapped up. Okay, appreciate that.
So much of what we do in our personal lives and at the office is the result of the paradigms we hold. And what we do, in turn, affects the results we get.
Thanks for coming to the meeting today, everyone.
The word paradigm comes from the Greek root paradigma, meaning pattern, the pattern we expect to see, or the mental image of the way things are. We see everything through the perspective of our own paradigm. If you see your industry as one where growth is impossible, how does that affect what you do every day? And what results do you think you'll get from your actions? On the other hand, suppose you saw unlimited prospects for growth in your industry. How would that change your actions? What we see, our paradigms, determine what we do, which in turn determines what we get. And unless we consciously stand apart from and examine our paradigms, we might never see that perhaps many of them are distorted, short-sighted, or just flat out wrong. I remember a mini paradigm shift I experienced one Sunday morning on a subway in New York City. People were sitting very quietly, some reading, some resting with their eyes closed. Suddenly, a man and his children entered the subway car. The children ran yelling through the car, throwing things, grabbing people's newspapers. Their father sat down near me and closed his eyes and did nothing. I felt irritated. I could not believe he would let his children run wild like that. After a few minutes of patience and restraint, I turned to him and said, "Sir, your children are really disturbing a lot of people. I wonder if you could control them just a little more."
Yeah, you're right. I should do something. But we just came from the hospital where their mother died about an hour ago, and I guess they don't know how to handle it. Because I don't know how to handle it.
Can you imagine how I felt at that moment? My paradigm shifted. Suddenly I saw things differently. And because I saw differently, I thought differently. I felt differently. I acted differently. My irritation vanished. Compassion flowed freely. I wanted to help instead of criticizing and complaining. Once you see things as they really are, you'll think, feel, and act differently. And you'll do it automatically, spontaneously. Can you see why paradigms are deeper than attitudes and behavior? If you want to make minor changes in your life, work on your behavior. But if you want to make significant quantum breakthroughs, work on your paradigms.